Oh.
Just so they know. Oh, I don't know if you guys can hear this, but our theme song is playing, so we kind of just like sit and listen to it for a whole minute. I'm just kidding.
Nice. I was gonna say that's a
Welcome, guys, to the We Should Talk More
Hi.
podcast. This is the podcast where two lifelong friends who don't have much in common try to get a little bit closer. My name is John Alzate, the host and founder of McDonald's, and I'm joined by...
Josh Cornell. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank
I am
you.
the co-host of We Should Talk More. Certainly not the host of McDonald's, which I didn't even know they would have a host.
Your server.
Oh! That makes a lot more sense. Which I didn't know they had hosts at McDonald's anyway.
It's a restaurant. Anyways, we're joined today by my two best friends. Charlotte
How long have you known them?
I've known them for what feels like forever.
I thought we were best friends.
Nope.
All right, do an introduction.
We're joined by the 20 and Trying podcast, the two co-hosts from that podcast, Charlotte and Peyton. Why don't you guys introduce yourself?
I'll, introduce myself in the podcast. So I'm Charlotte, and I created 20 and Trying a little over a year ago because I was stuck in the middle of the pandemic, and I read The Defining Decade, and I thought, oh my God, my 20s are going to shit. How in the world can I make the most of it? And I started the podcast because I was like, oh my God, other 20-somethings have to feel this way. And then my wonderful co-host Peyton joined, and the podcast just took on a whole other life since having her as part of the show, and she can introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Peyton. And yeah, life has just gotten better since I joined this podcast. And I'm kind of just here along for the ride.
Were you not always part of the podcast?
No.
Charlotte, you started this alone.
Almost a year I've been on.
Yeah, it's been about 11 months. 20 and Trying has gone through a few different lives and phases. It actually started as an Instagram live show, and that was kind of difficult because it always had to be done at a specific time, and the people had to be available at a specific time. And then I was like, you know what? I just can't do this. I don't have the stamina to do a live show. I don't have the skill either. So I converted it into a podcast, and I knew that I needed to bring Peyton, who's one of my closest friends from college, on because she's the blonde to my brunette, quite literally.
Wow, that's such a beautiful story. And I like it a lot because before we started doing this podcast, at the start of the pandemic, John and I used to do Instagram lives as well. We weren't having other people join us. We'd have people listen in and like submit questions. But that was a big part of like our inspiration of wanting to do something together anyway, because we started something like that before where we would just go on Instagram live, get questions submitted to us, answer those questions live, and then do it again next week.
Yeah, I feel like that was like the precursor to this, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's exciting to have you guys. To our viewers, I think by the time this comes out, the episode that we guest starred on 20 and Trying will already be out. So we'll link that in our show notes. Definitely check that out. It was a very exciting episode. We spoke about dating apps, and it was really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say we got a look at everyone's dating profile
That
here,
was a good one.
except John's.
Except mine. Maybe I'll make one soon. No, I'm just kidding. But from that conversation, we also were planning on having you guys on our podcast, which is very exciting. I think we could also give a little context on like how we met you guys. We found them on Instagram from our podcast account because we use a lot of podcast related hashtags. And they were one of the podcasts that we just found through like mutual pages. We were really interested in seeing what their whole shtick is about. Like having people in their 20s who just have really interesting things to talk about, and it's very different from what we do, since ours is a little more like of a personal talking about like us every episode for the most part. But
and we're 16
and I'm 16 and we're not in our 20s, so I was very, very interested in learning what that was all about,
for real.
But also just seeing like two best friends having another podcast where we're like, oh, that's just like us, but they're whamming.
Could you say that again?
They're whamming.
They're whamming what? What are they whamming?
No, they're females.
Oh. Yeah, I think that's apparent.
Okay.
So we get a different perspective here, and most of our listeners have just been listening to our perspective from a guy's side.
Yeah.
And so we've done many dating episodes. Maybe like 30% of our episodes have been dating related. And this whole time, our listeners have just been listening to us talk about our limited guy-sided perspective as to how it's been for us to date. So there's so much more to what other people experience. So much more from the other side of what we can learn from. So we're very excited to hear what Charlotte and Peyton will be able to share today. Within reason, of course. And what I wanted to add was the way that we're going to do this is we've prepared questions. John and I have had about 10 questions prepared, ready to run through them. Hopefully opening up a little bit of dialogue to go with them, to give off a little bit of a prompt. It's all free form. Any stories or any anecdotes you want to share to answer any questions, feel free to. Anything you don't want to share, feel free not to. And if any questions you don't like, feel free to tell us you don't like it. We'll skip them. We'll go to the next. And then we'll flip the script and let them ask us a few questions and take a little bit of a hot seat. The purpose here is less of us and more of them. So we'll start asking questions to Peyton and Charlotte first to start off the episode after we have a little bit of coffee hour, unless you want to add anything here.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main focus is getting the female's perspective. I think this is ladies' night for us. So we really, I think from having such a male perspective on here, we have to kind of like sit back and hear what they have to say. We have a good amount of female viewers too. I think probably a pretty decent amount of female viewers. I think we have Sam.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you look at the analytics, it's about 50-50.
Yeah. So this is really for them, and we want focus on you guys, and to celebrate that we're drinking wine today.
We are
for ladies' night.
So what did you bring out today for coffee hour?
We have a cold brew infused wine, Apothic Brew. I don't know if you can see it.
Wait, it's coffee?
Well, it's a wine that's infused with cold brew coffee. I don't know how it's going to taste because we've never had it before, but why don't you pour yourself some and then I'll...
If you guys are audio listeners, you might want to watch the YouTube video to this one to see their facial reaction. John.
Yeah, I love a good coffee, but I don't think I could mix coffee and wine.
I was very interested because a big thing with our podcast is drinking coffee at the start of it and talking about what we're drinking. But when I saw coffee wine, I'm like, we have to at least try that.
Yeah, you drink coffee this late without staying up until 2 a.m.
Yeah, that is part of the issue.
I'd be dead.
It is a problem.
It is a serious issue.
What are you drinking?
Oh, okay. So you just don't go to sleep on Tuesday night?
No,
unfortunately.
Up all night.
What are you drinking right now?
I'm having tea.
Oh, tea.
Tea.
We should try tea.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we were going to do tea. Oh, and then you pulled out a beer instead one night. Okay, never mind. And Charlotte?
My berry LaCroix. I overdid it on Halloween. No, I didn't even make it to Halloween. I overdid it the Friday before. So even thinking of any liquor is still sending me to vomit.
So I guess that's a good segue for our coffee hour to talk about Halloween itself. What we all did. Anything?
You should explain what coffee hour is.
Oh yeah, after we do a cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Clink.
Coffee hour. We all go around and share a little bit about how our last week has been. You only have to take a minute or two, no more or less. Me and John usually have this for ourselves, so we generally allot 5 minutes to it, and so it's 2.5 minutes for each other. But now that we have 4 people, figure it'll be about 10 minutes. No, 8 minutes. 8 minutes, 2 minutes each. And also, before we started doing coffee hour, we used to actually just describe the drink. I did want to describe this one because this is different. This is a cold brew wine, and it's a cold brew wine tastes kind of good.
To me, it just tastes like wine. I don't really taste I don't have any coffee flavor in it.
Yeah, that's
good.
I think it was, I'm sorry, was it Peyton or Charlotte who discussed thinking that it was coffee inside of a wine? That was you. Okay, yeah, I had the same reaction.
Was that you, sure? I don't know if I said anything. I mean, it doesn't sound like cold brew and wine.
It just tastes like a cab. I think it's a cab. It didn't actually say on the bottle. Okay. It just says it's infused with wine, but it doesn't say what type of wine it is. Just red wine. But to me, it tastes like a cab.
Anyway, so to not focus too much on the drink, we don't do that anymore. This past week, I had a great time. We had our seasonal Halloween party at our friend of the show, Jake's house this Halloween. And John will share what he wore, but I wore what we would call the most interesting man in the world. The face of Dos Equis.
I love the reactions.
So, are you familiar with who the most interesting man in the world is? Hayden is.
I am.
Charlotte doesn't seem to be.
You've never seen those commercials before?
Watch commercials. I don't have cable.
So it
Well,
goes.
not anymore, but when this was on, cable was like all we had.
Yeah, but I always just fast forward. My father hates commercials. He's just like, no. So I have no
That's so
idea what this is.
So it goes a little something like this. They'll introduce this guy who is just incredible. It's like a Chuck Norris version for a beer. And so once it pans over to him, he'll always say the same line, which is, "I don't always drink beer, but when I do, I drink Dos Equis." I'll show you a picture real quick just so you know what we're talking about. And John,
Oh yeah,
for the audio,
slide to the photo of you and the photo of the guy.
in the photo of the
Is
guy.
the
Yeah,
meme
so-
guy
so they
like
can see,
I
'cause
don't
she
always
might-
do this, but when I do this, it's this kind of thing.
Is that something else?
Yeah, that sounds like it's something else.
I don't
Damn.
always do this, but when I do this, it's this. It sounds very similar. It might be a different ad. So should I show?
Oh, wait,
I'll
yeah,
show
Yes,
this one.
It's that guy. Yes,
Oh yeah,
it's the
I think it's
part-
like
yes.
I think another saying he says is like, I don't always drink beer, but when I do, it's Dos Equis.
That's exactly what
Okay.
I said, bro.
No,
So
you
people
said the
turned
most
it into a
interesting man in the
meme.
world.
It is.
There it is. Focus.
Yeah. Good costume.
That's actually a great costume.
And then
Yes.
the picture of the guy.
very good.
Yes.
Spot on.
And John,
I dressed up as a vampire. Wait, I have to show the photos of me and my girlfriend.
Yeah, for
slumbering in our
for our
coffins.
audio listeners.
Yeah, for the audio listeners. I don't
Could
think
you,
I don't think they'll enjoy this part that they can't see, but I'll describe it.
Well, could you describe
So
how
this is me
Never mind.
slumbering and
Is
then
it daylight?
been awoken
It was daylight.
Oh,
and then attacking. That's it. It's just a vampire, very
love
classic.
that.
How was your weekend? We'll start with Charlotte.
Friday was great. I don't remember most of the night, but I spent all Saturday in bed with my head in a toilet bowl.
Ooh.
So, just like between the two places, it was not fun. And I think I'm going to lay off alcohol.
So that
for a
was
while.
just all from Friday night.
Yeah. And then I drove home Sunday and like passed out candy to little kids trick or treating. And we have so much left. Like just before this, I was enjoying a lollipop that we have left over.
Do you mind sharing what you dressed up as?
So I was Killer Queen. So, okay, like Queen's song Killer Queen, right?
Oh,
Mm.
Yeah.
so you dressed up as Queen, but a killer
Like I
version?
was the Killer Queen, yeah.
Oh,
Like,
I feel like I've seen something like that.
see if I can find any of the stories. Do I do this? It was fun though. No one really got it, but I enjoyed it. And I had like these fake tattoos and they were stuck all over, like I couldn't get them off. So who knows what my mom's patients thought when they saw all of that. Well, Peyton tells her story. I'm gonna look
Yeah,
for the photo.
Okay.
Yeah. So I went out one night, Saturday night, and went to like a local bar. Pretty uneventful, except for the fact that I got pretty drunk, and now I do not want to drink for the rest of November, which I'm gonna try to stick to.
Really?
That's wild.
For
Mhm.
both of you. This reminds me of July of last summer where me and John had a lot of parties and we decided we won't drink or do anything for August, and the first weekend of August we had another party.
And it was probably
I
like
love
the
that.
the worst like party. Well, not it was like a fun party, but it was like a party where like cops were called. Like it was like the most extreme. Like
Which party
that was
was
when we
this?
were at Mustafa, friend of the show, Mustafa's cousin's house,
Mm-hmm.
and then the cops were called, and you and I escaped.
Why were they called?
Because a party was going on and it was loud.
Yeah, I get that, but I don't remember this. Oh, that party. Oops.
Now he remembers.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
crazy one. Okay.
I found the photo.
Oh, she's a killer queen.
Oh,
There we
I see
go.
the crown and everything. I didn't see it for a second.
Yeah. And then I wore a queen shirt.
Oh, I was gonna ask Peyton what she dressed as. I don't know if you told us what your costume was.
I was a fallen angel, so I just wore all black and black wings and a halo because I did not feel like getting into the Halloween. I don't know what it was this year. I just didn't feel like coming up with a costume, and so I was just one of the very many girls that wore that same exact outfit.
Got you. Yeah, no, Halloween
Yeah.
is definitely one of our favorite holidays.
Yeah, I'm impressed with Josh. You guys don't know, but he hasn't been, he wouldn't do like super elaborate costumes, but like the last 2 years he's actually put a lot of effort into what he wears. So he's probably has some of the best costumes in like the last like 2 years. But also we have like Halloween parties in the summer. Like we'll do like a costume party in the summer. So we also
Oh, nice.
I love
have
that.
like, he was Bob Ross in the summer. That was a really good costume.
Before that, what was I? First one was the cowboy, which was all right. And
For the actual Halloween, you were Ace Ventura.
that's what it was. Jim Carrey, Ace Ventura.
Oh, good one.
Yeah, I had the same
I
thing.
mean, I usually go out, but like, I don't know what it was this year. Like, I just wasn't into it. But have you ever seen the movie Gone Girl?
Yes.
I've been Amy.
Oh.
But like after she murdered the guy. Yeah, I got a wig and everything. I've been Amy Dunn. I've done the 7 Deadly Sins. And I did like Lust, and I dressed up as like an old school like hooker with like a big like fur coat and like no clothes. And so I went to this party and everyone was like, "What are you?" And I was like, "Yeah, like the 7 Deadly Sins, I'm Lust, whatever." And they were like, "Are you Cruella DeVille?" And I was just like, "You know what? I don't even feel like explaining it to you. Just say I'm Cruella."
Yeah, I feel like it gets to a point where you just have to say yes to everybody. Like if they don't get what you are, just go with it.
Yeah. And I wasn't wearing Dalmatian. I was definitely wearing Cheetah, but it was fine. I was just like, I'm gonna go with it.
That's the worst part. When I went out on Sunday night, I couldn't get myself a bottle of Dos Equis. The bar didn't have any in stock, and so I'm just walking around like I'm an old man in a suit the whole night.
You're probably like, okay, interesting costume.
Yeah. But anyway, we talked a lot about our weekend, so let's just move on with the show.
Yeah.
All
right. So I guess Josh mentioned it before, but we are going to have the first half of this be questions that we prepared for you guys. A lot of them are kind of interesting because we have spoke about a lot of dating topics, so we kind of are revisiting some of the things that we've talked about in previous episodes, but getting like a female take on it. And there's also just some other like situational questions that we just don't know like how a female would think or approach a certain situation.
I mean, I think we have like an idea. We'll just want to hear from
Yeah, we'd want to hear your
like we're not completely naive.
Well, I mean, like I'm not a woman, so I wouldn't know what they're thinking.
Oh, and I guess as context here, I think we're all fairly straight men and women here. Would that be right to say?
Yeah.
All right. So any questions that lead into attraction, generally speaking, for the most part, it's like me and John are attracted to women, and Peyton and Charlotte are attracted to
Such
whatever
a weird thing
whatever
I was
they're
gonna say,
attracted
did you
to.
forget my name?
I did for a second.
Wow, that hurt.
No, it's just sometimes I take a pause when I talk.
Many times. Okay, so Josh, why don't you just ask the first question that we have for them?
So I think the reason why I wanted to give a little bit of preface with that is because this first question asks, as far as you can remember, when do you remember when you first began finding men attractive? As a little bit of context here, John and I did an episode. Our very first episode was about middle school dating, and so it wasn't really about dating, but more about when we first started finding women attractive, and how as we were going through middle school, first, second, third grade, each year we had one specific person in our class that we always had a crush on, and it was always like that each year. It was always somebody new, but there was no second person, there was no third person. There was always just that one special person that we always found attractive, and we can still put a face or a name to that to each school year.
Yeah, I would say I had my first boyfriend, who I actually still know, when I was 5, so kindergarten.
Oh, you were
And
5.
my first celebrity crush was also at that age. I used to watch Smallville, and the guy who played Superman.
I love Smallville.
Yeah, so
Wow.
I would say that young, 5.
Wow.
The age of 5.
Yeah, I would probably say maybe second grade. Like I found some old journals and it's like, oh my God, I think so and so is so cute. And it's like really funny things like, but he's not Jewish. I'm like, yes, 8-year-old me was so concerned about ending up with someone who was Jewish. But yeah, probably like 8 years old. But I can understand like kind of like those schoolyard crushes. A lot of those like guys I was close with up until I went to high school, and we went to like different schools, but sometimes I always wonder like where are they now? Which is like a little weird, but I'm probably digging myself into a really deep hole right now.
Did you switch schools at all? Like from school districts?
Yeah. They built like a new school, which was a K through 8, so I switched in 5th, part of 6th, and it was the worst experience ever. And I was like, I gotta get out of here. Went back to a different school, and then I went to an art school for high school. So it wasn't like the normal theater school. It was just like down in like Wynwood, took the city bus to get home every day. It was an experience, but it was also the best thing I could have asked for.
And Peyton, how do you get into a relationship at 5?
I don't know. I do remember, since it is Halloween, well, Halloween's just over now, but I do remember the season of Halloween and there being a scary story read and him putting his arm around me during it. Yeah.
Oh man, that's
Wow.
beautiful.
Can't make this shit up, man. It's real.
At 5.
So I don't know. I mean,
Was he older?
no, same age.
Same age.
Were
We
other
actually
people?
dated. He was my first boyfriend in high school. So
Oh wow.
Oh.
Lived on.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's crazy.
mhm.
Were other people when you were like 5? Were other people also having like boyfriends or?
I can't really remember, honestly. I was only caught up in my life because, I had main character energy.
Yeah.
But I mostly remember 6th grade. Not 6th grade. When we were 6, so 1st grade, being a lot of like people dating and liking one another, and I don't know. Maybe it was where we were raised. Maybe it was in the water. But
Did your parents know about your being 5 years old and in
my
a
parents
relationship?
knew. Yeah,
When you were 5?
yeah.
Did they encourage it?
They didn't discourage it. Just kind of what it
There you
was.
go.
They thought it was sweet,
Yeah.
little, puppy love.
Yeah, I think it's cute when you see your little 5-year-old finding someone else attractive or wanting to be in a relationship with someone else.
Yeah, my dad had brought me to somebody's house once on Valentine's Day. Like it was like a kindergarten crush, and he had bought like flowers and like a Barbie doll for me to give to her. And I like as like a little boy, I like went to her house and rang the doorbell and like gave that to her. And I also still know this person, yeah, on like
That's so
Facebook.
sweet.
But yeah,
Adorable.
And he also had a story where one of the girls from middle school that she moved out of town, was it? She ended up messaging him saying that she listens to the podcast.
oh, that's right. Yeah.
No
I don't remember
way.
who this. Oh yeah, it was one from like 5th grade. It was like a 5th grade like girlfriend, and I don't even know how she ended up. I guess she follows me on Facebook. I don't think she follows me on Instagram, but she must have seen it somehow, and she like followed me on Instagram and then messaged me saying that she listened to it and was like, oh, I didn't even remember all this stuff. I'm like, it's funny.
Yeah.
Apparently I got things wrong too. I think that's like the thing that happens. Like you remember what you remember, but you like miss a ton of details.
Exactly. So you want to lead to the next
Yes.
question?
I guess on talking about like first crushes and first relationships, when you got into your actual first like relationship, what do you think shaped like the expectations that you had for that relationship? So if it was like the people that you grew up with, if you have like an older sibling that was in a relationship, or your parents or your friends, were there like specific things that kind of like shape that?
Or movies or TV series?
An answer, I think. Like, I think rom-coms definitely like screwed me up. If I have to, like, if I'm being honest. But my parents also met when they were super young. My mom was in high school and my dad was a freshman in college.
Oh, wow.
So they've been together like for 39 years. And it took me a really long time to realize like their love story isn't my story. It's not my like when my mom was my age, she was married already. So I think that like played a really big role. And now I think moving forward, I'm also just figuring out like I don't need to be in a relationship to be happy, to feel whole. Um, and I also just don't need to be in a relationship to like live my life. If it makes any sense.
Yeah, I like that you touched into the rom-com thing too, because I do feel like those types of movies really kind of set that expectation where like the goal of the movie, or like sometimes the main thing that like a female character is so concerned about or like consumed with is like getting with the guy or having a guy like them, or like focus on their relationship, where it's not like a genuine depiction of reality or how people should really live their lives. So I'm glad that it's not the way you view things now.
Also, like, so did anyone here watch How I Met Your Mother?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember the episode, whether it's Dahmer or Doppler? I think that was like the premise of the episode.
I don't remember that one.
Okay. So it's either extreme if the affection is reciprocated. No, sorry, I got that wrong. It's either extreme if the affection is not reciprocated, or it's cute if the affection is reciprocated. So like in Say Anything, when he holds the boombox above his head, I can't remember his name, but that's like, oh my God, that's cute because the reaction was reciprocated. If it wasn't, it would be like, holy shit, why are you Can I curse on this?
Oh, yes.
Yes, please.
Great, lovely. Why are you standing outside my bedroom window playing a song? It's like Jeffrey Dahmer, like serial killer vibes.
Oh yeah, and I guess for Josh and anyone who hasn't watched How I Met Your Mother, in that the scene that she mentioned, the main character Ted like steals like a French horn from a restaurant where he went on like a first date with this girl, and he goes to her house and he like holds it outside of her house as like a symbol to her, but it's like he stole something. He's doing this like big grand gesture, and I think it's reciprocated well the first time, kind of, but it's still like, if it wasn't, that's kind of like a weird thing. Like, it's not like a thing that people should actually do. Like, you shouldn't actually go to places and like steal something from a restaurant and do like a gesture like that just to get a girl to like you.
Yeah, historically, I wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know about doing gestures?
No, about what's appropriate, what's not.
Oh.
And like rom-coms, a lot of those extreme tendencies are used just because it's like, oh my God, look at him, he's going to such great lengths. But it's still like a lot of toxic traits that the men are being painted in a specific way. But then, like, if you flip it, for instance, with How to Lose a Guy in Just 10 Days, it's psychotic. But I also think that movie scarred so many women because we do have this tendency to like fall hard, fall fast. Like, I want to do a comparison between like having a really awesome job interview and then starting to romanticize it. Like, and then compare that to having a really great first date and then romanticizing that. Like, it's that same like chemistry, like the same chemicals in your brain that like you start thinking about it. But anyway, that's my tangent about rom-com. Peyton, your expectations?
I think we all can kind of say those movies have shaped how we perceive relationships. I personally, growing up, I've seen healthy relationships. I've seen a lot of really unhealthy relationships. So I always I took it for what it is. I know when I was dating my first boyfriend, I didn't hold up to a lot of the standards that he had, mostly because I just don't fall into the same category, I guess, that some people have. I'm an only child. I do my own thing. I was very much raised to never change myself or change aspects of myself for a man. And so I'm very adamant about that. And so even if it was little things, I just wouldn't do it. I was too headstrong. So I don't really know how that shaped my expectations, but I think I realized as I got older that I shifted away from, the thought that, the perfect guy is out there, or that we can have this whirlwind romance that these rom-coms portray. And, you just start to realize that, the real world is real and relationships are a lot more messier.
That independence, you think, came a lot from being raised as a single child? Not as a single child, with a single parent?
No, I have both my parents.
Single child. Okay, sorry, I misheard. So I got it right the first time, sorry. So as a single child, you think that, I guess this question still stands, because in both ways, I think you can get a sense of independence from either having a single parent or having being a single child, and not having other brothers, sisters to relate or be able to go and play outside with, be able to go and do your own thing. How much you think that influenced your mindset?
A lot. I mean, I think you just gain so much independence in different ways. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I also don't have a big family, so I'm just kind of always been just myself. And like I said, I was really reinforced to not change myself, not, be anybody that I don't want to be for somebody else. And I'm very happy I stuck to that and I will continue going forward.
Yeah. I mean, I like that. And I like how you mentioned, I can totally see how that would have, I guess, conflicts in early relationships. I'm sure like a lot of guys too starting out, they can be very, I guess, have expectations that may not be reasonable, or like expecting girls to be a certain way, and there's that very like manly thought of like, oh, like they should do what I want, or they should only like do things with me. And I find it interesting that you really like fought against that, because there are a lot of girls who maybe like easily fall into those stereotypes because that's how they think things should be, but you kind of were just like not having any of that.
Yeah, I gotta say.
Yeah, I really.
Yeah.
And it was an issue, and looking back, I mean, it wasn't that deep. It was like going to his like games at school, and I'm like, I don't want to sit there and watch you. Like, I'm not going to. Like, I just didn't want to be. It was just not me. I mean, there were also a lot of fundamental issues that were deeper, that also, you know, brought out that behavior in me. But I mean, now I would be way more willing, you know, to do the little things. But overall, I maintained the idea that I do what I want, and if you can't get behind that, then is what it is. I mean, I didn't really expect much of him either. So as long as I put my trust in you and you maintain your individuality, I would hope that you expect the same of me.
Yeah, I'm really happy you're able to share that. I mean, thinking about myself as a little high schooler getting into my first relationship, I was definitely what John was just describing for a guy. I wanted to be the protective one, wanted to make sure things go the way that I idolized it to go. And if it was out of my control, then I felt like very hopeless or powerless. And a lot of those like insecurities would come out of that from that. So to see if my first girlfriend was very much like you, there would be so many conflicts. It would probably only last a few days. So I think we're good to move on to the next question. Anything else you guys want to add?
No, I was gonna psychoanalyze you, Josh, but maybe not the time to do it.
If you want to jot a note for when we flip the script, feel free.
You're absolutely right. Maybe I should do that.
Yeah. All right. Now for the third question we have here, about continuing on the same thread. Did your mindset on dating shift coming out of your first or second or third relationship? And if so, how so?
I can
Answered this already.
Well, I have more. I can say a little bit more, just
Okay.
a small, tiny bit. I was very much afraid to get into relationships. And I think I finally just got out of this. I was very afraid, even when I had that first relationship, of getting into something too serious, because I was always planning my next move. You know, I didn't want to stay in Florida. I had all these plans for my life. And, you know, and then college started, and then it was like, you know, meeting people like junior, senior year, like, why would I want to get into a relationship? Like, I'm leaving Orlando soon. Like, I was always, you know, coming up with an excuse because I was always planning my next move. And so I've fully learned now that, like, you just got to embrace the moment. You can't plan everything. You know, you can't protect yourself from like what's going to happen. That's life. Like, things go. I think I was also very afraid of getting hurt, experiencing that first heartbreak. And so I just continued to push it away, acting like it's not going to happen and like it's just inevitable. So that's something I learned, you know, through that one relationship and others that I've gone through in college.
I mean, I liked what both of you shared. I feel like I relate a lot to you, Peyton, with I guess being afraid of that first heartbreak. I feel like I guess not having been in many relationships like in high school, that was always something like that I would think about, and it I guess adds to a thing of being afraid of actually like getting with people because you're afraid of like the rejection or the inevitable like end. That's definitely like a thing. I think even now in my current relationship with this, which is like my first actual like girlfriend, that's like something that, I mean, things are fine, but it's like you get nervous when things are going really good too, because like you don't want things to end, and like when there are no problems, that's also like a scary thing too, because you're like, what will it be if there are? Like you're just afraid of that first like heartbreak. So yeah, that's definitely something I relate to.
Falling in love puts yourself at risk of like major consequences.
Yeah, that's why they call them crushes, because it crushes you.
Ooh.
I stole that from Twitter. So we've been talking a lot about the relationships. Something that we've spoken a lot. We have like a whole section of a podcast dedicated to this, where we were talking about red flags that we've kind of developed after having all these years of going on dates and talking to different people. We kind of now defined what our red flags are, what are things that we would want to avoid. So I'll hand it over to you guys. Through your experiences now, do you have some like major red flags that you have around dating?
Charlotte's is gonna be if someone's not tall enough. I already know. Every time we talk about dating, height becomes an issue. I already
But
know.
that's not
It's
a
gonna be
red
brought up.
flag. That's just like, that's the standard.
Okay.
Well,
So what are your red flags?
if it's someone you met off of, I know you don't have Tinder. If someone you met off of Tinder where you don't see their height and you had the expectation from their pictures, they look like they're 6'5", and then you go on that
And then
first
they
date.
lied.
Well, they never
Yeah.
they never mention their. You never ask for their height.
Oh.
And they don't put it on their profile because they don't have to. But they look like they're 6'5", so it was just from Charlotte's impression from their photos. Now you're on this first date, you see that they're actually 5'8". How do you react?
Like, wouldn't be a second date unless like they were stellar, like over the moon. Oh my god! Like, and I was sure as hell. Oh my god, I wanted to see them again. That's not a red flag. That is
Okay,
just
then
like
what's a red flag? I want to hear it.
okay. So I do have this thing, and like when someone only uses Snapchat to communicate, like that's a problem for me. A violent kisser is another one, which I've recently learned is a red flag.
A violent what?
A violent kisser.
Oh, violent kisser.
Like aggressive. I'm like, oh
Oh,
no.
I thought you just said a violent person. I was like,
I mean,
obviously.
that too. I know that everyone always says this, but like if we go to a restaurant and someone is rude to a wait staff, or they make like really like just mean jokes at someone else's expense, that's not about, like, I don't do that. It's not okay. I am all for self-deprecation and to make fun of, like, you can make fun of yourself, but you can't make fun of other people.
Yeah.
That's just like a line in the sand that I can't cross. I think that sums up the ones that I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Got it.
I don't know if they're really red flags. I mean, there's just things that people do that I just don't care for, that give me the ick really easily. If somebody's like just not ambitious and just like, I mean,
Yes, that too.
or if you're like, you don't know what you do, or like what you like to do. Like if you have no, or like honestly, if you have no personality, just don't go out with me. Sorry, it is what it is. Like you have to be a conversationalist. That's just more about things like I don't like about people, but I don't know if there's any like super red flags. I think the Snapchat one's good, even though like, I don't even talk through Snapchat. I don't even have one anymore. Which is also, when are we gonna collectively stop using that?
I've
Do
had
we ever
it
went through?
deleted for so long. I still like the fact that you even brought it up, Charlotte. I'm like, people are still saying like, oh, add me on Snapchat.
Exactly.
So weird to me. Like I don't know.
It's the generational
done.
difference, I think.
So that's the problem. Like, I do love it. And I also think like it's easy to just send something, and then at least you're kind of staying in contact with the person, because like, you don't really have the commitment to text someone all the time, but like you can still see what's going on in their life. So like it's good for that. But if it's someone like you're actually talking to, like, no, get off of it. But like Peyton and I were talking, and I can't remember in what the context was, but it was like the ick sign sometimes just like crawls over you, and you don't really know like what specifically gave that, like why you got the ick, but when you get the ick, it's like you gotta run away.
Can you explain to our nincompoop viewers what the ick is?
I.e. us.
The ick is just an overall feeling when you are just completely turned off by the other person.
Do you think that's normally like brought on by one of the red flags? Like if that's checked off like at the start of a date, will you instantly cut them off? Oh, that's interesting.
Now, but is it immediate? Is it like one event that triggers that, or is it as soon as you go on that date, you already detect something's wrong?
I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt. So even if they do something a little kind of off in the beginning, I'll be like, okay, especially if it's a first date, I'm like, okay, maybe they're nervous, but they do something else or they continue that behavior. No. I mean, it can be even down to like just certain phrases they use. It's like, if you're using that, stop. Like, I'm embarrassed. I'm cringing. Yeah.
I was on a thread and someone was like, I got the ick because someone used this emoji. And I was like, wow, that is like,
wild.
that's extreme.
Yeah, that's extreme. But like, I don't know. If you're like texting me and it's just like, I don't know how to say this correctly. So just disregard that. I'm just saying, if you say corny shit, like I'm already gonna be like, but then maybe I'll go out with you. But if you're gonna continue acting that way, I probably won't go on a second date with you.
I kind of want to know how they'd react to one of the stories I told on the podcast of a weird thing I've said on a date. You'll remember
Which
this?
one? Which one?
You'll remember when I say it. So I went on a coffee date with a girl that I met. I think on Bumble. And we got coffee and then we went to a park and we were just walking around and talking. And the date was going really well. We're talking about our families and things like that. And she mentions her older sibling recently having a child. And then me, like, awkwardly in the conversation, I see Charlotte saying no. Me awkwardly in the situation, I'm like, oh, that's like great. Are you interested in having kids? And I asked it on the first date of me, first time meeting this person. I've never asked somebody that ever on a date, and like I remember when I said it, I felt the word slip my mouth, and I was like, I literally told her, so I'm like, I don't know why I asked that. I'm so sorry. Like that's such a stupid question. And yeah, that's a very one of many awkward things I've probably done on dates. But would that give either of you the ick?
I have a few questions.
Yeah.
Was there a second date?
There was.
Okay. That's also a lot better than I thought it was going.
I agree.
Where
Yes,
did you think it was going?
I thought it was gonna be like, well, do you want to have a baby with me kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh God, no. I don't think it's that bad. I mean, honestly, like, wouldn't you want to know down the road if you're seeing a future with someone if they do want to have a family?
It is.
I mean, maybe not on the first date, but
Yeah,
like,
I feel like just on the first date.
like I
it's
would
like, yeah.
respect that. Like if it were me, because I know I want one, like I'd be like, oh yeah, I mean down the road. Like honestly, similar situation happened with the date I went on last week. The guy was telling me, the whole thing was just awkward. Okay, so the guy was telling me like how he's gonna be an uncle soon, and I was like, oh yeah, you know, kids are great, and I was just like, but I don't want any anytime soon. And he was like, oh no. But it was such like an awkward like conversation. I was very much in, you know, journalism mode. I kept asking questions because he wasn't giving me anything back. So I was just like trying to continue something. But yeah, I just think talking about kids on a first date isn't the best, but like never talk, or like if you want to talk about it like early on, it's not bad.
Yeah, there's definitely a way to approach it, but I feel like it's just like a weird thing to mention.
Just not as a random question.
Yeah,
I guess
not as
set
a
the
random
context.
question. Yeah, because it wasn't a good question and that fit with what we were talking about.
I mean, it is now
Yeah.
something on dating apps. One of the options to like say
Like, do you want
if you want
kids?
kids or not. So it's not out of reason, I don't think.
No, especially as we get older too. I feel like that's something that's definitely going to come into play. I mean, not now, not at this age, but
Yeah.
I mean, like if we're dating at like 30, that's something that people want to know.
Yeah, that might be it too. If you're in your 30s, it might be one of the
Becomes
first
more,
questions you're
yeah,
asking
becomes
on a
more,
date.
Becomes more important, yeah.
appropriate, yeah.
It's probably like the first words Eddie Matthews sit down. Do you want to get married? Do you want to have kids? If not, let's go.
You're
Like,
wasting my
I'm
time.
getting out of here. Honestly.
Yeah. Any other red flags we want to bring up before we move on to the next question?
If a guy wants to hang out late at night with you and not take you on a date.
Yep.
Yep.
All of
Oh,
these are
like,
things
come
that I've been
over
in, and I
at
still
11
am
at
doing
night.
it.
Got you. I was like, is it like an issue to ask someone to grab drinks at 9 p.m.?
No, not that. I mean,
No.
like,
Gotcha.
come over to my house. Like, you know, just come over later. And it's like 2 a.m. or like, come over after the club. No.
Yeah.
You only see them after 11 o'clock. It's a problem.
Yeah.
Between the hours of 11 o'clock and 6 o'clock. Have I done this? Absolutely. Do I recognize it's a problem?
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah, same. But I mean, like, I realize now recently, like, I don't want to, or like meeting you for the first time at night at like 2 a.m. That's not happening.
No.
Yeah.
Like you're.
I mean, I think it says something different if it's someone you already know and someone you've already been seeing. At like 11 o'clock, you are already talking and it just comes up and you end up seeing each other that night or maybe regularly that way. But if it's that first date, I think that sets the wrong tone. To move on to the next question.
Mhm.
Was this yours or mine? I forgot who asked the
It's
last
mine.
question. Okay, sorry.
I mean, no, it's yours. Sorry, I thought you meant the question that you were gonna ask. If it was,
Yeah, you wrote this
Yeah.
You wrote this one, yeah.
Yeah.
So, we spoke about dating on your podcast, dating apps on your podcast. But for our listeners, what type of messages from guys on those apps do you respond to the best? On the flip side, which do you respond to the worst? As in, like, the worst you have gotten, you probably didn't respond.
Yeah, I do that a lot. I just don't respond.
I feel like I remember.
Most of the time.
Was it Peyton who said if someone says hi, like you would never respond or something?
No, I think that was Charlotte.
Oh, Charlotte. Okay.
I said I won't respond to like a cheesy pickup line.
Oh, okay, that was it. That's
Mhm.
that's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
If something's just hi, I probably won't. But I only use Bumble, so like I have to be the person to
Ah.
initiate the conversation. So it really depends on the responses.
Have you gotten
Um,
any really? Oh, she's.
Peyton has to take
Okay.
over. Best
Pick
messages.
which one you want. You're either in or you're out.
Never mind.
We'll be using this on our Instagram.
Girl, you went off on those dogs. They're gonna be scared of you.
Holy shit. That was so funny.
That's okay if we publish that, right?
Choose what you want. It's either in or out. I feel you though, honestly.
Oh my god.
I guess I can use a recent example. Somebody just messaged me on Hinge and said, "Nice face, babe." Not responding.
Oh no.
Why would I respond to that? What are you gonna say? Back at you? No.
Sounds like
Sorry.
something you would say.
It's definitely
That's just so superficial.
not something I would say.
Nice face, babe. What is this?
Ugh.
So
No.
definitely, if that gives you any answer to,
I
the
always
question,
wonder-
that's right there.
What guys think when they send that? Like, what are they? What kind of response are they expecting? I mean, I know that's not a question you guys can answer, but it's just a thing
Why
to
are
think
you
about.
looking at me?
Yeah.
Why is everyone?
Have you ever
looking at
said
me?
that before?
No. I have. I would send things on occasion, just like beautiful.
You're the Hawaii one, right? You
Yeah,
use that Hawaii pickup
we
line.
both used
Yeah,
the
we
Hawaii
both
one.
used it.
We both got it from her friend Sam, and since then we both stole it from her. And so, anyway, I have done a lot of like "hi beautiful," "hi pretty" as just the first line because I don't have anything else to say, or I don't know what
That's
else to
not
say.
bad.
Yeah.
But if like you don't have anything else to say, then like are you just sending a message because the person's attractive?
Sometimes
Like
they're,
that's
but honestly, sometimes their page is contentless, other than their pictures.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it
it's
is
true.
hard
I
if
mean-
someone has like nothing on their profile. There's,
I
like,
wouldn't
nothing to work
even
with.
swipe right on that person though.
Yeah, I
That's
probably
true.
wouldn't.
They gotta
either.
have a personality.
Like they could be a serial killer.
They could be, but so could I.
Let's hope you're not. Yeah, I think that when like because I always like to see the response that I get from the question. So I know I said on the one that I recorded with the two of you, like I'll say like what bucket list, if you could travel anywhere, where would you go? Like music. But something I've gotten a few times and I like don't really know how to gauge it.
I'm so sorry.
What's horrible was I couldn't even hear that, but I saw it and I was like, I should be hearing this,
I'm
and I
hearing it
didn't hear
loud.
any
Wait.
line pouring. Up there, there
There
it
you
is.
go.
There it
It
is.
is. Was like if it'll be like, what are 3 things on your bucket list? If they make a joke like meet you, take you out, make you mine, I'm
Ooh.
just like, I'll be like, okay, nice, but like, what's your real answer?
Mhm.
If it's overly cocky, like have something named after me, go into space, and like something that, you know, it's just like I'm so great and you should know I'm so great. I'm just like, no. Like I need someone who can like match my self-deprecation. Yeah, so that's kind of like the responses that like I don't jive with, which is why like I like saying like what's your favorite travel destination, because it's like you actually get to know like have you been to this place, why do you want to go to this place, like have you done a lot of traveling, like it
Mhm.
is an actual conversation and not just like you're hot.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Okay, so we've focused a lot on the negative. What about some best messages? Best responses to a bucket list, best responses to where you want to travel, things like that.
I don't know any off the top of my brain. But I like when people respond to my prompts, like she said. Um, that's about it. Like if you're
No,
cheeky or you have banter, that's it. Like I'll pretty much respond to you. But I have no like people who stand out in my mind.
no top messages.
No top messages. You know how many messages? I mean, I sound shitty saying that, but like if I remember every single one, it'd be a lot.
Yeah.
I think in the episode we did on dating apps, Josh mentioned that our friend Sam, we mentioned her like 4 times this episode.
We mention her about 4 or 5 times
She's
every
like our
episode.
only female friend, so we messaged her a lot. She I think she mentioned to you when she first got on Tinder, she had like 3,000 matches, or she got a notification getting like 3,000 matches, something like that.
Not 3,000 matches, 3,000 likes. It was like the second day
3,000
on,
likes. Okay, in
Tinder,
her
yeah.
second day, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's like an important thing to note, I guess. I'm sure you guys have gotten a lot.
It's important to note from the guy's side. It's something to show off to your friends if you have that gold sticker saying you have 50 likes.
For guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, I've never done that. Oh, you know, because I've never gotten 50
That's
likes.
what I was
I've never
gonna
gotten
say.
50 likes. That makes sense.
Ah.
Oh,
Oh, my dog just walked in.
it's, you know what? I'm familiar with
Entertain
the
them.
situation.
Yeah. It's either in or out, Bella. In or out. What is she doing? She's joining the show.
The third female to
This
join
is a
this show.
different dog.
Yeah, this is Bella.
Wearing a scarf.
Oh, last time you saw Henley.
Oh yeah, last time you saw the baby. He's not even mine. That's my sister's dog.
Mm-hmm.
So cute.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna let
So-
her down.
There's like 7 dogs in this house.
It's either in or out, Bella.
Wow, so disrespectful.
Like, I need to preface the fact that they walked in while recording the podcast, and then they wanted to walk out. So, you know,
They
like
needed to
because
decide.
That's how dogs
They
are.
had-
That's how dogs are.
Yeah. We're out.
I know.
Yeah.
I think my dad came home, then they're like, "Psh, why are we hanging out with this loser when our favorite person's back?"
Yeah. I'm realizing that we spent a lot of time on these questions. Should we just skip to the last one?
Wait. Let's see. Are there any other good ones though? We have some of the situational ones. Let's keep going.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So
Our focus is you guys.
exactly.
I love being asked questions. Honestly, I've just realized it's nice to be asked and not asking for one.
Oh yeah,
Exactly.
you mentioned like that's as a journalism major, that's like what you do a lot of. Like even on your dates, you're just like in that mode of like asking people stuff.
If someone like doesn't have the natural conversation, I hate silence, so I will keep talking.
Asking. Mhm.
I will ask almost anything that comes to my brain because I just can't sit there in silence. It's so uncomfortable. So if you're not like giving me anything, I'm just gonna talk you to death and leave after an hour.
That's why your question probably wasn't all that bad.
Which one?
About
about
how many
yeah.
babies you want.
Yeah. Well, that's not exactly what I asked, but okay.
It's like, are
I
we
thought you were
too
just
advanced?
asking me that now. I was like,
No. So we're getting into more situational questions. That's like what our next like 2 or 3 things are. So the one that we have here is, how would you react to your date biting into your ice cream or your food like on the first date? And the little like context that we added here is I guess when there's a certain level of comfort that's established when you're on a date. So how comfortable are you with someone, I guess, like pushing those boundaries, or are you more like, let's like not do that stuff until like way later, or like what's your comfort zone?
this is a first date,
First thing.
Yeah, first
You didn't
date.
ask.
and somebody's eating my ice cream and they didn't ask.
Didn't ask.
Or your food, like whatever.
Boy, get them. No, I'm joking. Yeah, no, that would honestly be what would be going on in my head because I'm never seeing you again.
You guys both
Yeah.
look so passionate about this.
No, I like if someone
That's
just like
so
reached
disgusting.
over and had my food, I'd be like, "Excuse me, like I don't know, like if you were in a relationship, fine." But I just realized this. So I went on 2 dates with this guy and I got the ick, but I got the ick for a different reason. He ordered, like we got dinner both nights. he ordered dinner, but like we shared. Like he ordered a bunch of food and we shared it. And I was like, okay, on one hand that's sweet, but it's also like I want to eat my own fucking food. Like I think I felt like a child that he was ordering food for me. And I was
Yeah.
like I just want to eat my own goddamn salad. I just want to eat my own goddamn like sushi roll. I don't want to have to share. Like that sounds mean, but again, only child.
I want a
as well.
porterhouse for 2 for 1. Like, how about that?
Yeah. It was more so just like we don't need to get so much food. Just like get what you want and I'll get what I want. But you know, he paid.
That's a red
bills,
flag.
so-
That's a red flag, though. See, I don't like that. Like, you're already trying to set the boundaries there now. But
Well, sometimes, depending on the restaurant or the type of person, they might do family style dinner.
It was not family style dinner, Josh.
that's different.
He might
That's
be.
different.
He might come from.
I love that response.
He might come from the tradition where it's family style.
She's not
Do
having it.
not
She's not
take
having it.
his side.
She's not having
No.
it, man. You can't.
Gotcha,
You can't
gotcha.
play devil
I'm
advocate,
just
man.
saying. I'm just saying. It's a possibility here.
Would you guys like if a girl was just like, ooh, yum, let me take some off your plate?
Wouldn't y'all think it's like super weird? Like, why is she eating my French fries?
Without asking.
Yeah, without
Like,
asking,
oh, can I steal a fry is one thing. But, like,
That happened to
let
me.
me just.
did it?
It happened to me.
I
I
feel-
didn't have any issue.
But did she not ask?
No, she just took a piece of chicken off my plate or something like that.
Are you kidding me?
That
And you
says
allowed
so
that?
much about you, Josh.
she
What?
gave
You
me
were
the-
okay with
she-
that?
She gave me the eye. It was okay.
So she
What's
gave you
the-
a signal.
Oh, the
She
eye
gave you the
was
eye,
like,
I'm gonna
like
eat
she
your
looked
chicken.
down and then she looked at you and then she looked down again.
Just like that.
Seems a little like the story's being a little fabricated, but
No,
okay.
no, no. I swear to God, it wasn't that eye. But she was
It
definitely
was just
giving
like
signals. It was giving signals.
Take your chicken off your plate.
No, she was giving signals, but
Directly.
she did grab something off my plate. I
But
forget what it was.
she gave you a signal though. But like, let's say if you're looking down and you're looking at your food and you're eating, and then you just see a fork come in and take chicken and escape out of your eye line.
Look, I think there's a right and wrong way to go about it.
Okay, well, the way the question is, they did not ask and they didn't give you any nonverbal signals. That
Yeah,
they didn't-
exactly.
So you wouldn't respond well if you got no nonverbal signals.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
All right, so we're in agreement.
This was inspired from a story from one of my friends, actually, who I got on a dating app recently, and she was telling me, and I shared this on the podcast you were just added in. Her name's Dahlia, friend of the show. She actually listens to most of our episodes, and she mentioned that after she went on one of her second dates from Tinder, I think it was, they went and grabbed some ice cream in New York City, and he straight up like took her hand and bit straight from her ice cream. And like also part of the date, he was just like grabbing her hand, going straight for her hand while they're walking. I think she rated that date about like a 3 out of 10. I forget what it was.
Okay, quick question for y'all. Do you think it's normal to like touch somebody's thigh or want to put like their arm around you on a first date?
I think it's what signals you get.
Yeah, like if the moment's right, like if you.
What
you
if the moment is not right for that?
If you immediately read that the vibe is wrong after you touch their thigh, don't do it again.
Okay, solid
I also
answer.
think like what the first date is. Like I know the context of what you're saying, Pay. So yes, that was weird. Oops. But also like if like you're walking, I think like like physical like it happens like shoulders brushing against each other.
Mhm.
But
Right.
if like you're sitting down and like it has to be like an active movement and it feels forced, not the
Yeah.
vibe.
And it doesn't stop. You want to keep moving away.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big no.
I-
That's
Okay,
a big
cool.
no.
Cool.
have a- I
I
have a
thought
s-
I was just alone in the
No.
woods here.
I
but
have
now
a story
know.
that
I'm
that
not.
you kind of reminded me of. I went on a date in college and I didn't have any like I didn't have much experience dating. This was like one of my like first like actual dates, and I remember we were walking and I kept like I was just like I reached for her hand and I wanted to hold her hand. This was on like a first date. And I did it like a couple different times. Like we sat down when we got up, I would like hold her hand again. And then she told me like, oh, like we don't have to hold hands. But I didn't take it in a bad way because she said it in a really nice way. Like, oh, like we can just like walk. Like we don't have to do that. And I kind of I guess I realized like, that's not really like you don't I guess you don't like you really don't have to do that, especially when you're like first meeting someone. But I think at the time I didn't really understand that. I just thought like that's what you're supposed to do. I think that's genuinely what I thought, because like I didn't really have any like experience before that, so I was just like, on a date, so I guess I'll hold her hand if we're walking like in a park or something. But I feel like that's probably something that like a lot of people do, just like not realizing. But that's like one example, but there's also just people like pushing it, like even if there's no vibe, they'll like be like aggressive or just weird.
I gotta
with,
say,
like,
that's like a very mature response from her.
yeah, I really appreciate that. Like I still remember it vividly, because she was very kind about it. Like she didn't say it in a bad way. Like I didn't take it in a bad way.
Mm-hmm.
No, that was good. I mean, it's totally something I would say. That's why I snickered. Because, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like it doesn't always have to be like that. Or, you know, sometimes I feel like some guys act out of like you said, they kind of feel like they have to do that, or they don't have the experience, or maybe, you know, a little bit out of like, I have to assert dominance. That's how I feel sometimes too. Like they have to, this is what's happening. It's like, it's really not. So.
Okay.
You realize it's not when you don't get a second date, right?
I don't know. They might
like PDA. I think that's like a big thing as well. You know?
Oh, you
like,
don't like PDA?
I don't like, at least I don't like the person I don't like to be the person who is getting the public display of affection. I don't mind if I see other people making out, you do you, have fun. But I remember very vividly this guy that I was seeing once, like, really wanted to make out in Central Park. And I was like, I don't want to fucking touch you right now. Like, get your hand out. He like kept putting his hand in like the back pocket of my jeans. And I was like, get your hand out of my pocket. Like, you want to hold hands? Fine. You want to talk? Fine. Get your hand off of my breast for the second part. Like, we are in a park. Stop touching me like this.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. I know that was very aggressive, but
No,
this is also
totally
the same
justified.
guy.
Mm-hmm.
For any of our podcast listeners who happen to listen to this
I already know
podcast,
which one.
who I
you're
wanted to
talking
punch
about.
in the teeth. So
We'll have to listen.
I died when you said that the first time. Like, I just want to punch him in the teeth. And I'm like, whoa.
See,
Yeah.
I think I've been with girls that are on the opposite side of that, and on that side. Like my ex of 7 years was not about PDA at all. In high school, she'd be concerned about anyone seeing her like holding hands or like kissing in the hallways or anything like that. But then I've also been with girls who are the ones initiating that in public, like grabbing you or pulling you closer, wanting to show PDA just to demonstrate that in public. I don't know.
Mhm.
I will also say, like, the two of you, do you know what your love language is?
Yep.
Yeah.
Quality
Okay, so-
time and acts of service.
Physical
Oh.
touch and gifts.
Uh,
No, I don't like
okay.
gifts. Just
Oh, okay. Well, so Peyton and I were talking about this. My love language is both physical touch and quality time. So I need to have the physical touch to be able to know that I want to spend quality time with the person. So I don't mind, like, at least when I'm in a separate room with someone, or like giving someone a kiss when I see them for the first time. Like when I see them, but if I'm in public, I also think I still get like such like weird secondhand embarrassment, like thinking of myself like I'm a child, and people will know like this is like an early date, or they're just getting to know each other. Granted, I'm 23 years old and I have not been like a child for quite some time, but I still get like this weird, strange embarrassment. Like people are going to be like, oh, that's so cute. Like she's just going on her first date. Like obviously that's not the case, but again, that's my own psychosis.
Well, let's try to wrap up these questions for you two.
This is a long episode.
I know, and it's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying this one a lot. We have 2 more questions. I think we can do 2 more questions quickly. So, this one is anecdotal. Any fun stories or any?
Oh, you skipped the.
Did I skip something?
Yeah, you skipped the question about the bill coming.
Where is it?
It's right here.
I don't see it, but I can imagine what the question is. The bill comes to the table, and does he offer to pay?
Just read.
Where is it, bro? It's not here.
It's in green, right in front of you.
You have it indented. Why do you have it indented?
I didn't do that. I just saw it like that when I.
Okay,
opened it.
you're on the first date and the bill comes. What do you do?
Always like reach for my wallet and offer to pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then if he's like, no, like if he's like, okay, that's great, sure. It's more like, okay, I'm gonna take note of that. But I always also like when like to split it. But I have a story, but I'm gonna let Peyton answer, and I have to remember my story.
Yeah, if it comes, like I'm always definitely willing to pay. Drinks is different. I think that when you're going out for drinks with someone, they should definitely, I think a guy should buy the first drink. But it wasn't until I lived in England for a while that I realized that men don't do that over there. So I got used to always picking up like a round.
Mm-hmm.
And now I just do that. On that recent date that I keep bringing up, I actually paid for both rounds because I just wanted to get the fuck out of there. And the guy accidentally didn't hear me and took my credit card. So I was just like, okay, I'll pay for it. I don't care. But yeah, when it comes to dinner, definitely like always offering to pay. If they actually let me pay, then that's a red flag.
That's my next question. Yeah. So okay, well actually I know women might have two. Well, I mean, you speak on that behalf. So you already said it's a red flag for you, Peyton. Is that a red flag for you as well, Charlotte?
They let me pay. Yes. Like it definitely depends on what it is. Like if it's just coffee and they're like, yeah, of course you can pay for your coffee. I'm just like, cool. Like this was very casual. Like it sets a casual note. But
Yeah.
I will also use paying for the bill as a way to say, I don't want to see you again.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that with the guy in New York that I wanted to punch in the teeth. And he it didn't process for him. And he was like, what do you want to do? I was like, we'll see a movie. Like I thinking I wouldn't have to talk to him. It'll be 90 minutes. Peyton, what movie did we end up seeing?
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
The longest fucking
It's like
movie.
almost 3 hours, right?
Oh wow.
The movie that I actually like that she can't stand.
So bad.
Now,
So
Well, I
anyway,
don't blame
I'll-
you.
are you
Yeah,
saying
I had to
if you?
sit.
I'm sorry. I was asking if you are insisting that you don't. I mean, you don't want to go on a second date. Are you insistent to pay? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or if it's like it will be several dates and I'm like, I'll pay. It's like, okay, like please just take this as a
Sign that I
as
don't
a-
want to continue.
as a sign. Exactly. Now granted, there was someone that I was seeing pretty seriously and like we would kind of like share the responsibility. Like one day he would, then the other time I would, which I was cool with because I felt like I could still be my own person in that context. But if I'm very insistent, it's just like, please don't call me again.
Got you. Yeah, no, that's very interesting because I have been on a date with somebody as of late, a month and a half ago, I think was their first date, and she actually insisted to pay. She ordered a Corona and asked the waiter, "Can I get a separate bill just for this Corona?" And we at this time have food at the table. So now I thought that was very strange, but she tells
That
me.
is.
She tells me I'm not going to give any hints here, but I come from this
Okay.
country, and from this country, women don't let men pay for them. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to complain about that. We did have many follow-up dates since. So
Okay.
it doesn't seem like for her in her situation that it was her like it wasn't her telling me that she doesn't want to see me again, but it was just really just how she behaves when she goes on dates where she
Right.
pays for her half.
Well, it's a
That-
cultural thing as
Yeah.
well. Then, then that explains it too.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Interesting.
but like just the Corona though.
I got the red flag when I saw that. Not the red flag, but I thought I've received the message from her that she picked up on some type of red flag that she didn't want to continue seeing me at that point by asking the waiter
Right.
specifically for a bill.
I mean, yeah, just the one thing.
yeah,
that was pretty-
that made me feel a little uneasy at that point, honestly. But
I would have
things
been like,
Things continue to
dating
work out
life.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good though.
I
That's
feel
good.
like I saw on Twitter once that someone said whoever's like initiating the date or whoever's I guess saying like, oh, we should go here is the one that has the responsibility. I mean, I don't think that's always the case. That's not really what I've like upholded to, but I found that like interesting, I guess. Like whoever is like, hey, we should get dinner here. It's kind of your, especially if it's a first date, it's like your responsibility since you kind of are the one that is like initiating you going there. I don't
It's
know.
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting look at it for sure.
I know we can keep digging
There's-
on this one. All right. So to move on to the final and last question before we flip the script, what are some struggles that women face while dating that most men do not realize? And is there context here? I believe that it's easier for women to get. Oh, a little context I think that was added here is just like the common belief that it's just much easier for women to get men. But is it really?
Good thing for the context, because I was gonna say something like
Yeah, I
really,
was gonna say something
really
completely
deep.
different.
Yeah, really. Gonna say predatory behavior. Like,
Yeah, I guess we're more looking for things that aren't so obvious. I guess especially for us, like we could assume like you don't want like some creepy dudes, but are there things that you guys experience that like most guys don't even realize?
I think like kind of going off what Peyton said, we live in this world where women have to be hyper focused. So sometimes that does mean over analyzing things that could be a joke and they're like, "Whoa, this is bad." Like one of the first dates I ever went on, a guy was like, "Can you drive me to work?" And I was like, "No, I can't drive like, who asks that?" And I was like, "I can't drive you to work." It's like, "Oh, well, I'm in my mom's car and like I need to get it back to her." But I was like, "Is he gonna pull a gun? Like, is he gonna pull a knife on me? Why is he asking me this? Like, why would he agree to a date before work, like when he has to be there?" Like, I think that women just have to be like incredibly aware of their surroundings that men may just not have to be. I don't know if that's like it's fair to generalize like that, but it's
I
true.
I
I
think
mean,
it's
I
fair
agree.
though.
Yeah, I think it's totally fair. Generally speaking, don't think about my safety going on a date.
Yeah, so I think like it could be an easy thing for guys to like just assume that girls aren't like always concerned about that, but it's just because we don't.
And I
deal
think
with
that's
that.
just how we are shaped growing up.
Yeah.
Societal norms and
Yeah.
everything.
I mean,
Like-
also like, you know how we talk about like the phone call that people will have, when it's a bad date, it's like, oh yeah, like my friend, like
Mhm.
call me in 30 minutes, I can get you out of it. Okay, but like, what about before you go on the date and you have to share your location with your friend because you don't know if this person from a dating app is a killer or could kidnap you or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things that go through your brain, and like Charlotte's saying, you can overanalyze any sort of joke or line. Like you're constantly on one, where like I feel like I don't want to generalize either, but like you're not just going in with the idea of like, the first date jitters. It's like the first date jitters, but plus I'm worried about my safety. And it's just something that really is crazy come to think of it. Like we
Mhm.
really go on dates off of dating apps with random strangers. And that could go for men too. Women could be predatory and scary in the same aspect. Like we really go out and we do that. And that's like normal. And that's really scary
Yeah.
because I feel like there's just a lot of predators in general. So I think that whole idea is something that goes into dating that a lot of people kind of just put on the back burner and they don't think about, the safety concerns going into it.
I
Yeah.
would also add, even thinking about where the date is a really big factor, or the time. There is someone who like even when people offer to pick me up for dates, I'm hesitant to say yes because that means they know where I live. It also
Yeah.
means I'm in a car with them for God knows how long. I don't have control, and I know like I've made jokes about it that I do have control issues and I'm a perfectionist. But I think a really big part of that is like rooted in like my safety because I do need to be in control over a situation like that. Like I'm like there's this guy that asked me out and he asked like he was thinking of going down to Wynwood, which is about an hour drive at the time of day. And he was like, "I'll pick you up, it's not a problem." Super sweet. Like, yeah, that's really kind that he would offer, especially if it's out of the way. But that also means I'm in a car with him for an hour and I can't get out if something's wrong.
Mhm.
Like, I don't even
That's
think
scary.
men think about that.
So
They just think like, "Oh my God, I'm gonna be really nice and like offer to pick you up."
yeah, so I mean, I think about it a lot actually when I'm asking somebody on the first date and how to set up like meeting arrangements because I have been in situations where the person doesn't seem like they have a way to meet up, like they just don't drive, and so I'm very hesitant to ask them to pick them up at their place because I know a lot of women are not comfortable with that. So generally, I'll say something like, "I'm more than happy to pick you up if you're okay with that, but if not, we can meet over here."
Way to word it.
And I have been in many situations where, well, actually, I've been in one situation recently where I mentioned the location to meet up and like to grab some food, and we planned it out. 30 minutes before the date, she asks me, "Oh, can you come pick me up? Actually, don't drive." I'm like, "Well, I mean, it would have been great to let me know beforehand,
Yeah.
but it's fine. She wasn't that far away." But I also didn't want to just ask her right out sometimes. Depending on like what I'm picking up from the conversation, I don't generally like to ask somebody if they want me to pick them up or if I should pick you up because I know a lot of people are not comfortable with that.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
definitely
You're
think
right.
like especially on like first dates, I've rarely ever like asked to pick someone up unless like they really needed it. Like
Mhm.
same thing like saying like if you need it I can, but like by all means like I'm not like saying that I want to pick you up or I have to pick you up.
Mhm.
But I will say I like that you guys mentioned that because I do think and I don't know if you agree with this, Josh, but like through our experiences using dating apps, like meeting random people, going on dates, like I have not once really worried about like, oh, I'm meeting a stranger, like I could be in danger.
Mhm.
Like it's
Exactly.
never crossed my mind, and I think that's definitely like that's just the perspective. I think also as men, as when we were little boys, I'm still 16, but um when our parents raised us, like our fathers are typically like very encouraging of guys like going out talking to girls like doing things,
It's
whereas like
true.
I have an older sister, like that was complete opposite for her. Like I would always see like don't talk to strangers, don't like do this. Like my sister luckily started dating someone from high school, but I do think if she was ever in the situation to be on like dating apps, like she probably would not be allowed to like go on a date, or at least like
Mhm.
frown upon going on dates with like random people, because it's like it's a lot
I think there's
more
a lot
frowned
of
upon.
stigma against
Yeah.
it early on. But I mean, I
Yeah.
love that you mentioned it though, that we don't really have that same social pressure of worrying about our safety. But also, I don't think I've ever had the situation where a girl has offered to pick me up on the first date.
Oops, I accidentally.
Imagine.
That would be very
I
romantic.
mean, yeah, I just didn't want to rule out that women can also have predatory behavior because they
Hmm.
can.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Maybe it's not picking you up, but there are definitely other ways.
All
Yeah.
right. So it was a lot of fun digging into your dating answers. We'll put ourselves, I mean, we're an hour and a
Yeah,
half
I
in.
think like we could prioritize maybe like the top like 2 or 3 questions that you guys may have. I do like that we spent so much time like getting your opinions and stuff. So if whatever you think is like was really like you want to ask, or even based on stuff that we talked about, we can go over. But we don't need to make it more than like 10 minutes.
And if you guys want to talk real quick, we'll close our ears and decide which questions you want to ask first. My ears are closed.
I feel like Peyton, I feel like a lot of like what we like just like the dialogue that we had, like that's
Yeah, I mean, you answered. I mean, we kind of asked you questions
That's fair.
throughout as well.
Mhm.
throughout the
Um,
episode. Yeah.
that we got a lot of different perspectives too. I mean,
No, I want to be
yeah,
asked
I learned a lot
questions.
about
I want to
in
be
that
asked
last question there.
questions. That
Wait, what'd
was,
you say?
I said I want to be asked questions.
I mean, I have
Yeah.
like one question I can ask you
Ah,
because it's something like that you said earlier. I messaged Peyton.
Mhm.
Like earlier on, you said you had like this you like
oh yeah.
expectation like to be the protector. So like where does that come from? Like what shaped you? I know you mentioned that you always suggest watching Before Sunrise. So like was it romance movies? Like was that shaped with rom-coms like how Peyton and I were, or
Mhm.
is it just like society's standards?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it was definitely not romantic movies. I wasn't I am into some romantic movies, but growing up, I definitely wasn't. But to get to what the answer would really be is just really how I was shaped growing up. My dad was very protective over my mom. He came from more of a traditional background. He's Ecuadorian, and Ecuadorians, if you ever have dated an Ecuadorian man, you might realize how jealous, controlling.
Many Hispanic men.
In general,
yeah.
a lot of Latinos might be very controlling or protective over who they would consider their partner. So I would see that in my own parents, and I would see that in my extended family as well. My dad is Ecuadorian. He would. Did you look at me because I said it again that he's Ecuadorian?
No, I was just looking.
Oh, sorry, I'm just getting self-conscious. So, he would not be okay with my mom. Originally, was not okay with my mom working. Was not okay with my mom like going out to certain events. Was not okay with like having certain friends. So there was like a lot of things that me growing up, that was something that I don't want to carry on now in my adulthood, knowing why it could be a bad thing to have those values in life and bring that to a relationship. It shaped me because this is what I would see as a kid and see, oh, this is what a relationship is supposed to be. And then also, I mean, you see the good side too, where it's like, oh, well, you are here to be sweet to a woman. You always offer her to pay. You always go above and beyond. You get gifts, you get flowers, you get whatnot. And my dad would always be very kind to say, like, if you're interested in a woman, like, I'm happy to help you out and like go above and beyond to make sure like you can make things work out well. But then also at some point it could be a level of persistence that's too much and too much control too. And I think that is where part of that, where the insecurity would come from, because now you're talking about what you have always seen as important in part of your life, and it shaped you to be who you are. And then once you see why someone like push against that, it brings out some of those insecurities, and you start questioning, well, why is this person talking to someone else? You question, why are they going out to this event? Why is this person better than me? Things like that. It really messes with your mind, where it's kind of fucked up.
For sure. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of different aspects of that. I think, you've learned ways to treat a woman correctly, and then ways that could also be a little too much, where you could limit them. And I think that that's really a lot to say about you as a person and your character, to where where you want to distinguish those qualities.
Yeah. I mean, so like when you were telling your story early on about how you were very independent, you wouldn't like anyone telling you what to do, you want to do your own thing, you'll like your individual time, things like that. I'm like, ooh, thinking about my high school self, I'm like, that would be very, very challenging for me in a first relationship, because I was extremely clingy. I was extremely jealous in my first relationship.
See, and
that was on and off for like 7 years, right?
It was on and off only. It was only on and off once.
Oh, never mind then.
Yep, that's all right.
But I mean, yeah, and see, what was instilled in me came from my parents as well. Like, my mom got married very young, and her husband limited her, and she didn't get to enjoy the same opportunities. Got cheated on, all of that. And so she taught me, don't ever do that. Don't get married young. Don't do those things that I fell into. And so that's where it's just so interesting how the way you were raised and the relationships that you see can really just shape your perceptions. And I know you guys mentioned how dads and men in general will just like encourage you to talk to girls. What other type of characteristics and traits do they kind of push about women that we're not privy to, do you think?
I know a thing that I've gotten a lot from my dad is like your relationship with a girl is like it's separate from your relationship with other people. It's something I've noticed with his opinions on like other relationships, like within our friend group. Like, he would think like, if you have a girlfriend, you go on dates with your girlfriend, but you don't hang out with your friends and your girlfriend. Like, why would you invite someone that is like your girlfriend with like a group of guys? So I think it ties into that kind of like possessive, like, she's yours. Like, why are you bringing her around other men, where like you should just hang out with her like one-on-one? I've noticed that a bit. I think a lot of the stuff that you've mentioned I've experienced too, so I won't like rehash it all, but yeah, that's definitely something that I've got.
Yeah, I'm struggling.
See,
Yeah, go on, because I'm struggling
no,
to find other reasons. So please go on.
I was gonna say, I think seeing how someone interacts with your friend group is very telling. Just because like seeing how they mesh well with each other at the Halloween party. Um, my One of my really close friends brought her boyfriend, and I mean, there's going to be like a lot of friends that are listed right here, but like it was thrown at a friend's house. She lives with her boyfriend, but our friend brought her boyfriend, and they got along really well. So it was also very telling, like, oh, this person who's never met so and so can mesh well with them. Like that means something.
Yeah.
Versus if it is just so awkward, that doesn't go over well.
I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like
Mhm.
it is a big thing for people like bringing someone that you're dating like to your friend group, because you do really care about those opinions, and you want them to mesh well with your friends. And the other thing I thought when I was talking about like I guess the old thought of like you should just hang out like separately is also, I feel like there's the older idea of like boys will be boys. Like when guys are together, they have like a certain guys will say like stupid stuff when they're all hanging out. So it's like, why would you bring someone around that? But it's also like that should also like flip it on the people that are saying it, because it's like then you should realize like, should you even be saying that whether or not a girl or a girlfriend is around? Because it's like if you're okay with it just like as the group,
You're not being
Yeah.
very authentic.
yeah, exactly. So like I do know we've had experiences where like we have a girlfriend of one of our close friends that is like very close with our friend group, and we our friend group is not like vile or like we don't say like terrible things, but we also don't hide that from her. Like if we make like silly jokes, like we are our authentic selves with her, which I think that situation works well, because it's like our friend feels very comfortable bringing her around us, because it's like the same whether she's with us or not. Like we
So I find that very interesting, because I mean, I know exactly who you're talking
Yeah.
about, of course. But like when she first started joining the group, I did feel like we did have to be a little more careful about what we say around her. And so I started seeing like Alex, friend of the show, boyfriend of the girl we're talking about, Aaron, is that he would be the one to actually like say the same jokes that
Yeah.
we would say when she wouldn't be around. So it made it a lot more comfortable, and to realize that like she's happy to play along with whatever like personality we had in her group.
Yeah,
So,
and
like,
I guess
all
it
that
definitely
worked very
depends
well.
on the person too. Like with the whole thing of like meshing, like she meshed really well with our group because
She
she
did.
also makes jokes with us, and she also like messes around. So like I think it works well in that situation, but I could see why it would be different in others where like the relationship might be different or the people might be different. So
Yeah.
I would wanna touch more on, because I know Charlotte mentioned how a lot of like rom-coms shaped your view on relationships. So I know like that's something that me and Josh had touched a lot on in our previous episodes, where that was like a big thing for me with The Office. It was The Office, and I like that you mentioned How I Met Your Mother, because I do think the whole idea of having like the one, or like that whole perception of like you have your like soulmate out there or something, like for me really came from shows like How I Met Your Mother and in The Office. I think it's changed since then, and like we've spoken about that, but yeah, I like that you brought that up, because I think it is like the same both ways. Like I think a lot of guys, at least me, I really fell into that, especially in like high school. That was like a big thing for me. Like my whole perception on what relationships were just like Jim and Pam, or like Ted and Robin. It's like you learn that it's not really like that. And also I'm curious how you feel about this, but like when you revisit shows like that, or like movies, like you start to realize that the main characters are kind of awful, or like if you were in someone else's shoes, like what we spoke about is like Jim and Pam. When you're watching the show, you're like, oh, I want them to be together. But if you were like watching a different show just from like Roy, who was Pam's fiance's perspective, you just have like his fiance flirting with a guy at work, and then the guy at work like kisses his fiance at a work party. It's like it's very different from like a different perspective where you're like the main characters might not be that great and they might not be making like good decisions.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, in that scenario, like what was even that wrong with Roy? Like now thinking back.
I think they did show a
Like-
lot that he was kind of like possessive and weird, but I think
Okay.
it still
was.
doesn't make
Jim's
It
character.
doesn't make it
Yeah.
okay
Yeah.
for like Jim to act
yeah.
The way
and like
that he
just
was.
move in
Yeah.
and expect her to leave her whole ass fiance
Yeah.
for him.
Mhm.
And I think it portrays like an inauthentic way of like real life, because like in real life, like I think that's something that I felt like I would see a relationship if there was a girl that I liked and she was in a relationship. I would start to justify in my head like, oh, like her boyfriend is all these bad things, but that's just my perspective. Like,
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It's like you see in that, oh, somebody else is in another relationship, I can save them.
yeah,
I'll save them from that relationship. I'll show them that I'm the better person.
I'm the Jim.
I am the Jin. I'm here to rescue you. I'll keep feeding into that. And so finally you leave him and you come to me. And having that expectation that will actually happen, I think is what like caused a lot of some of John's more traumatic dating experiences. If you want to hear about it, check out I think it was the college dating that you opened up about that. So that was a great episode.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so obviously How I Met Your Mother is just like an adventure in and of its own self. But I think probably Friends is a better example, especially like the dynamic between Ross and Rachel. Is a really big one because
Hate Ross.
Look, I'm the one not getting in on this one because I haven't watched How I Met Your Mother.
Have you watched Friends?
This is Friends now.
Oh, wait. Oh, I haven't watched Friends either. Never mind.
I'm just saying Ross is just so
like that's the problem. There's a lot of problematic traits that pop up. Like the show paints Joey to be like this womanizing sex pot, but in the end, like he still treats women right. He never says like this is going to be more than it is. He always is like very upfront. And I think Ross has a lot, there's definitely more problems, but it also kind of shows you that when you do meet your person, you do excuse a lot of tendencies. Like if there really is something that's right, you'll excuse it. So Peyton and I are like talking about red flags and all of these things, but it's like in the end, like if someone wants to order food for me and I have a feeling like they're my person, I'm going to forgive them. If they want to touch my thigh at dinner and I hate PDA, if I think that they're the right person, I'm going to make an excuse. And we see this in like romantic comedies and shows where like best friends end up getting married. Like, so it's hard because I do think a lot of it comes down to like just you need to meet your person or you need to meet that individual who you feel something for. Because if like there's a relationship and there were a lot, not even a relationship, but there's like this person that I was seeing and I found a lot of things that were wrong. But I think if I felt more for this person, I wouldn't have cared.
I mean, I agree too, but it's like it also you have to know if the person is your person and not that you just think that it's your person. Because I had somebody who I excused a lot of toxic behavior for because I thought that was the person that I wanted to be with. And I would have done anything for. But then one day I just woke up and I was like, I'm not going to be treated like trash anymore. You know what I mean?
And I think that could like play into a lot of the like maybe movies or how you were raised, how it shaped you. And like some key aspect about that person was like, okay, this is my person. This is the one. And then you excuse everything that is telling you that it's a red flag, that you shouldn't be with this person, and you accept it being as toxic as it is just because you have been shaped to believe that this person is the one for you.
Yeah, the thing that I immediately thought of too when Charlotte mentioned that was have you guys watched 500 Days of Summer?
Yes.
So like the big thing in that movie was that Summer wasn't ready for a serious relationship. She didn't want to get married, but that's like the big conflict that she has with Tom, the Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character. But as soon as they break up in her next relationship, she is finally comfortable with this other man to settle down, to get engaged, to get married, where she didn't feel that at all for Tom. So it's like the things that she didn't like was different because she was with someone else that she felt was her person.
So I will
Right.
say this because I heard or read a study. A lot of the times when men say I'm not ready to get married, it's actually just because of the time. It has nothing to do with like the person that they're with. Women, however, it is the person that they're with and it isn't the time.
Mhm.
So I don't know, like if someone said like, "Oh, Charlotte, I want to marry you," and I'm like, "Oh, fuck no," it's the person. But if like the next relationship, it's like that person is right. For men though, it's more of like the stage in their life, and that's actually what dictates it. It has something to do with like hormones and brain chemistry, I think.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that
But
is
that
interesting.
movie in particular, I feel like also very similar to like, The Office and How I Met Your Mother. Like now that these shows and movies are being analyzed from today's perspective, you're starting to see that the characters that we were rooting for or maybe didn't like back then are now like the ones that weren't that bad. Like I remember when I first watched that movie, like I hated Summer. I was like,
Yeah, that's
what is
exactly
wrong
what
with
I had
her?
said.
Why
Yeah.
wouldn't she want to be with
Mhm.
him? And then, upon rewatch in my 20s, I'm
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, she was so clear about what
hmm
she didn't want. And he just like didn't care.
Yeah.
Like
And it's
he
like
was
from
pushing her for
the very
something.
start of the film where she like states like what she wants, and he, I guess like similar like we said, like he probably felt like she was his person, but she didn't feel the same way, so he just ignored all these things that would typically be red flags just because he felt that she was this
Right.
thing, but she wasn't.
I mean, it's funny because like right before we started this, if you guys have watched You on Netflix,
Yeah, we were having similar
Yeah.
conversation.
we were just having this conversation, and it's still true to this day. Like when you're watching movies, if like somebody you see some good qualities in that person. So You, if you don't know, is there's this male protagonist, and he's stalking this woman and following her around everywhere, seeing what she's doing because he gained an infatuation with her.
Can you really call him the protagonist? Isn't he like an anti-hero? Is that what it's called?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh,
If
yeah.
if I messed up the terminology, perhaps.
I guess.
I just mean
I
like
don't really root for him.
I
Like,
just
do
mean
we
like
really want to call him the hero of this show?
Well, I
definitely
think
did
the
not
show,
mean protagonist as like in
but I
terms
think
of a
what he
hero.
meant is like the show frames it in that way because like you
Yes.
only
Yeah,
hear his
he's the main
perspective.
character.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
are constantly giving you reasons to maybe root for him, even though like what he's doing is horrible. So like the show is definitely trying to make him the protagonist, even though
Yeah.
he's like awful.
You
Definitely
were
third
definitely like
season is.
very aware that everything he's doing is terrible and wrong, but at the same time, it has been just the way that they are framing the series. It's like, okay, it's kind of interesting. What is he gonna do next? And I'm very interested to see what he's doing next. And if he doesn't do what I expect him to do next, I'm gonna be very disappointed. If he doesn't kill that guy in the first episode, I mean, in the first couple episodes, well, why is he not doing that? Just based on how they set the storyline.
You know, I feel like there's a
Right.
whole other conversation that we could get to about this, because I think just like with the way shows portray like real life relationships, it may just be for a show, but it could like inaccurately like morph how you view reality and how you approach like real relationships. But we're out of time.
We are at 2
Yeah,
hours.
for sure.
Yes.
But this was a great conversation, honestly. I'm happy that we got to get like really like in depth with a lot of the questions we had for you guys. We didn't expect it to take up that much time, but I'm glad it did, actually. Something I told Josh before we filmed this is like, our viewers have heard us talk about like dating for so many things. It's like they're tired of us at this point. Like I really wanted it to be like you guys in the center, because it's about getting that different perspective. So I'm glad we were really able to show that.
I mean, I can also just sense like from the like 1 or 2 questions you asked from us, from my response at least, and John's response, like a lot of that stuff has been rehashed from like previous episodes, like both about me talking about how I've been shaped and John talking about his Jim and Pam story. Those are all stories we've shared in like previous episodes. So I don't think anything we've said in the last, not the last 40 minutes, but because this was a two-way conversation just right now, but any questions that were pointed at us was not anything new that we brought up on the podcast. So it is much more valuable that we did get the time to ask you guys questions for most of the podcast and get your responses from it.
Yeah, well, thank you for having us.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess with the last couple of minutes we have, you guys can plug your podcast, and if you want to give like another like description of it for the people that are still listening right now, we'll give you the floor.
Go ahead, Charlotte.
If you want to follow us on Instagram, you can follow us at 20andtrying.podcast. We also have a website and a blog, which I really wish I could remember the URL at the moment. This is very late. Like, this is definitely past the time. This is past my bedtime. But then we also have a secret Facebook group. It's 20 and Trying, which is a community of 20 somethings, really just trying to make the most of it. So if you're interested in joining that Facebook group, we can
Once I
send you
turn
guys
20.
the URL. You can share it if you want.
Mhm.
But really it's just 20 and Trying is a community of 20 somethings who are trying to make the most of this decade.
Yeah. Any URLs that you want us to throw into the show notes, we'll be happy to add them.
Yeah, you should. We'll email you after this, but you can send us back the social links and everything. But again, it was a pleasure having you guys on. This was honestly a great conversation. I think even the spot that we had with you guys on your podcast, definitely people listening to this, you should check out their podcast in general. But the conversation we had with you guys was also really fun about dating apps. Do you have any closing remarks?
I loved it. Loved it.
This was great.
Come back again in 2, 3, 4 years. But yeah.
Definitely when you're of age.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll let you know when it's
And
our 18th birthday.
Yeah. I'll have you back for that. All right. Thanks so much. So this
Thank you.
is
This is the We Should Talk More podcast. Thanks again for listening, guys. You can find us on shouldtalkmore.com. All our social links are there. My name is John.
And I'm Josh.
We were here with Charlotte and Peyton. They really stuck through it with us, and we're happy that they did. All right. It's kind of awkward now because the song is going, so I don't want to cut it off short.
Well, John, what's your plans for the rest of today? It's bright and early.
I've had 2 glasses of wine. I might have another
Oh.
We should.
underage drinking.
Ooh.
All right. Thanks again, guys.
Disclaimer, we do not endorse underage drinking.
This was wonderful.
Where are you headed?
Yeah, thank you guys.
Do you guys have any upcoming episodes or any fun things you have planned?
For this afternoon?
This afternoon. Ooh. No. Nothing.
Yeah. I'm confused though. Are we still
Oh
recording?
my gosh, you're dead.